Today is Tuesday, September 19th, 2017. My name is Edna Sussman. I'm a reference librarian here at the Half Hollow Hills Community Library in Dix Hills, New York. We're interviewing John Zimmermann, a Vietnam Air Force veteran, as part of our Veterans Testimonial Project and in collaboration with the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. Thank you so much, John, for being with us today and for your service. John, where and when were you born?
I was born October 7th, 1946, in Lenox Hill Hospital in Manhattan, New York.
And who are your parents, their names and their occupations?
John Charles Zimmermann was my father. He was a machinist and a chef.
Oh, nice combination.
Interesting combination.
Yeah.
My mother was Helen Zimmermann. She was a bookkeeper accountant.
Wow. And did you have any siblings?
I have one brother, Michael Zimmermann.
Was he in the military?
Yes.
Oh, when did he serve?
He served during Vietnam, but he didn't go to Vietnam.
Oh, wow. You were both in at the same time?
No, he was in after. I just got out and he went in.
Really?
Yeah.
Was he drafted or?
No, he enlisted.
He did, in Air Force?
Air Force.
Also? Okay. Now, what were you doing before you entered the service?
I was a high school student.
Had you finished high school?
No, I dropped out and joined the military.
No kidding.
Yeah, in March, April, somewhere around there of 1964, they had a little run-in with the legal establishment.
Okay.
So I decided I needed to get a change. I needed to be somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So I decided I'll be 18 in October. I went down seeing some recruiters, picked the Air Force, joined the Air Force late October.
Of 64?
Of 64, and went to basic training January of 1965.
Now, why did you pick the Air Force?
I wanted, they told the best lies.
How did you know that?
I found out afterwards.
Oh.
I wanted to be a helicopter mechanic.
Oh, you
so
did?
the Air Force said, no, we have the helicopter sitting on the runway waiting for you. So I said, I'll join, because Vietnam, you gotta remember, 1964, 1965, Vietnam wasn't even in the newspapers. It was a sidebar that you'd see on page 44. So the Air Force told the best lies. I joined and found out that they lied. I finished basic training.
Where was the basic training?
San Antonio, Texas, Lackland Air Force Base.
Okay.
And I finished basic training, and when I received my orders, they said, you're going to U.S. Naval Schools Construction, Port Hueneme, California. And I said, okay, I'm in the Air Force. What is this? Utilityman school. So I ran to the drill and training instructor. We called them training instructors. I said, excuse me, I joined to be a helicopter mechanic. And he said in his southern drawl, well, let me see your enlistment papers, boy. So he looked at me, he said, well, right here. The first thing you signed up for, son, was the mechanical field. And right now, the Air Force don't need no helicopter mechanics. They need utilitymen, and you've had the privilege of going to United States Naval Schools Construction, Port Hueneme. Now get out of my office.
Oh, my God. Oh, that's...
So, and the interesting thing about that was they moved us by train from Texas to California. And I'm one of the only people I know, except for the 21 other guys that are with me, that's ever done that. They had our own Pullman car. They put our Pullman car on whatever that train that goes to California across Lower America. We had our own everything.
Why do you think they did that instead of flying you out there?
Somebody, I'm sure some politician somewhere had some kind of hook with the railroad. Because it cost them, if I I remember correctly, $36,000 to move 21 guys in 1965.
Wow. And it probably took a
And the
lot
only
longer.
reason I know that, in their infinite wisdom, they put me in charge.
Oh, that's funny.
When the training instructor was leaving, he said, "Zimmerman," I said, "Yes, sir." Handed me a whole package, everybody's records, all the paperwork I had to sign for the train, for meals and everything else, and he said, "You're in charge." Great, thank you very much, Sergeant. He left. I looked at everything.
What was your rank then?
I was an airman basic. We were all the same. They just picked one guy, you're in charge. During training, I had a little issue. So since everything was paper-based back then, my issue disappeared, along with other issues that other people going through training had. So we all had nice, spotless, clean records when we got to, the Navy base and at our main stations. And then went to California.
So what was that supposed, well, first of all, basic training was how long, usually?
Oh, I don't remember. 9 weeks, 12 weeks, something, I don't remember.
And everybody learned the same thing at that
Everybody
point.
went to say, everybody learned, you learned how to march, you learned the Air Force creed, you learned how to salute, you learned your 10 general orders, I will not give up my post unless Poppy relieved. That's the only one I really remember. There was other ones. There was the whole thing, what you're supposed to do. You know, how you challenge the enemy if somebody's coming up to your post. And I had an issue in basic, so at day 15, they brought me back to day 1. But everything happens for a reason. If I would have graduated basic training on time, instead of going to California and U.S. Naval School's construction, CB school, I would have went to Shadud Air Force Base in Illinois, outside of Chicago.
Right.
But that setting back sent me to California. Then also, after I got done with California, some of us went to Camp Perry, Ohio, and we pulled targets for the National Rifle Association's national matches in Camp Perry, Ohio.
What do you mean pulled targets?
We pulled targets, we scored targets. The military in the 60s, I think up until the 70s, worked hand in hand with the NRA.
Oh, wow.
We pulled targets, we filled sandbags and everything else to make sure this thing worked.
I see.
Because the NRA was originally, the whole idea of the NRA was to teach people that don't know how to shoot. So the military was involved with them.
I see. Is that what you learned also in basic training? You had to learn how
Learn how to shoot, yep.
Okay. Huh. Wow. You recall your instructors? What were they like?
For some reason, every instructor I ever bumped into was a Southerner. They all talk with Southern drawers, y'all. And you Yankees are in big trouble,
Not much, love between the two.
No.
So,
It was sort of like if you ever saw the movie Full Metal Jacket.
no, I didn't.
No, that's what the drill instructor was like, the training instructor. They were all the same. The idea was to break you down and then mold you into a fighting machine.
Now, the specialized training you got then in California at the construction
Yeah,
camp?
at CB school.
CB.
I was a utility man. I learned to repair and build boilers.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and it served me. I did that when I got out up until 82 or 83.
You mean as a living or for
As
the
a living, yeah.
No kidding.
I was
So
a
that
heating mechanic, heating and air conditioning at the end.
helped your career.
Yeah.
How was it adapting to military life? The physical regimen, the barracks
It
food?
was all good. I enjoyed it. I mean, because I spent my formative years in the Bronx.
Oh,
I was a little bit of a tough guy, didn't take anything. There was a little issue with somebody else in basic, and they frown on physical contact between basic trainees.
okay.
didn't catch that part of the rule right
Got
away.
it. Okay, got it.
Hence me sending me back 15 days.
Okay, but that got erased.
When I got the records, yes, it disappeared.
Good for you. So when you went to California, how long was that training?
California was 6 months.
Really? That's a
Yeah,
long time.
It was a long time. But they taught us. I had never, I didn't know anything about boilers.
Sure.
They taught us plumbing.
Huh.
They taught us how to, put pipes together, how to measure pipes, how to build a heating system in a house.
Now,
or
what was that,
something.
I mean, you were in the Air Force, so what
Well,
boilers were you going to be
Well, civil
servicing?
engineering.
Oh.
We were it's just like at the Air Force has barracks. In the barracks, there's heat.
I
There's,
see.
there's
Okay.
the hot water for showers. There's chow halls that have hot water, that need hot water. There's hospitals that need hot
Very
water.
important stuff.
So yeah, we were the plumbers, the carpenters, the heating specialists, the roads and grounds people. We were the people that maintained the base.
Wow. Always probably some chore to do.
Yeah.
Something needed fixing.
We were
or
the people that
maintaining.
fought fires if there were wildfires.
Wow, really? Wow, that's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, so then after California, when did you leave? Where did you go from there?
Well, like I said, Ohio, and then after
Oh, right.
then after Ohio, finally got to my main base, which was Pope Air Force Base, outside of Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is right next to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is the home of an awful lot of Army.
Okay,
And Pope was there because Pope flew the airplanes that the Army airborne like to jump out of.
okay. So did you were the bases very separated? Or did you have anything to do with them?
Well, we were right next door. I
Right
mean,
next
the
door,
Army,
oh.
when I got hurt, I was in the Army hospital on Bragg called Womack Army Hospital.
You got hurt while you were there?
I got hurt when I was in North Carolina.
What happened?
I lost the end of my index finger got caught between a pulley belt and a pulley wheel, and it was chopped off.
Ooh, that must have hurt.
Yeah.
So how long were you in the hospital for that?
A month, maybe?
Really? What could they do for that?
Or what they did, they tried something new. They had never done this before, but because it was the Army and they like to experiment, they took the skin from my arm here,
Okay.
because this is the deepest part you can cut.
Oh,
They took it from here and they laid it on top of the thumb, I don't know if you want to see that or
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
and they stitched it all up.
so it made it longer?
But it made it longer so they didn't have to cut it below the,
Nice.
they didn't have to cut it below the joint. They rebuilt it.
Do you have feeling in your?
Yeah. They did a heck of a job.
Amazing.
I mean, the only thing they didn't tell me, because after the surgery, I was walking around in a cast like this, sleeping in a cast like this, and they didn't tell me what they had done, so I got tired of doing this, so I broke it. And that's why I have a scar there, because I pulled all the stitches inside of it. They didn't tell me.
They should have told you.
They should have told me.
Yeah.
The reason it's like that is because we cut your arm there.
Wow. But your arm then eventually you got
Everything's
movement,
good. Yeah, everything's good.
Excellent. Great. Okay, so then you were in North Carolina.
North Carolina.
And then? How long were you there?
I was there till October of 1967. I was home on leave, and I got a phone call from my first sergeant, and he said, your wish has come through, you're going to Vietnam.
You wanted to?
I wanted to go. I believe.
You're kidding.
I believe the lie. I believed that we had to stop the communist aggression in Vietnam, or the dominoes would fall, and all of Asia would be communist, and then the world would become a communist. And so I believed the lie. I was ready to go.
Wow.
I wanted to go. I wanted to go. Well, it's not so much bravery; it's youthful stupidity.
Yeah, so you were 21?
I turned 21 while we were in Florida. We didn't go right to Vietnam. We went to Florida first,
Oh.
We trained in Florida for 2 months.
Really?
October, November, December, actually more than 2 months. We left December 14th. We trained because we were Red Horse.
That was your unit?
That was the unit we were going to, and what Red Horse stands for is Rapid Emergency Deployment, Heavy Operational Squadrons Engineers, Heavy Repair. We built bases, we repaired bases, we convoyed, we did all. So we trained for, those, I forget, from October till December 14th.
67 this was.
It's 1967.
And then you left for after
Then we
the 3 months?
flew from Eglin Field, Florida, which is the Upper Panhandle, to Vietnam. We stopped in Anchorage, Alaska, Yokota, Japan, and then Vietnam.
Was the military plane huge?
No, we flew on TWA.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, back then the civilian airlines were flying us over. There was stewardesses on it and everything else.
Oh, okay.
And they, in fact, when I went to Chicago for the Chicago Welcome Home, the whole crew in the airplane was all people that took people. The 2 pilots were Vietnam veteran pilots, and the whole flight crew, the stewardesses, all civilian that took us to Vietnam and took us home.
Oh, wow, nice. All right, so you served abroad. What were your memories of that experience? How long were you in Vietnam?
I was in Vietnam 6 hours and 40 minutes short of a year.
Wow.
Not that I was counting.
Yeah, right.
But no, my experiences were different because of what I did, because I built boilers. So and I was the only individual in my construction unit that built boilers.
Huh.
The NCOIC above me came from another field, so he really didn't know anything. And the other individual came from another field, so he was just learning it. So I was the expert.
Wow.
So anytime they needed something put in, they'd say, John, you need to go. The first place they sent me was a place called Fuqua Island.
Okay.
I said, okay, where's Fuqua Island? And they said, well, look on the map. So I looked on the map, and Fuqua Island is right off the Cambodian coast. So.
Why would they send you there?
Well, there was a base there.
Oh, an American base?
An American base. A little small American base was there. And I was there because they needed to put in chow hall because the base was building a little bit, so they needed hot water for the food because they were tired of. Normally when you're in the field, you have immersion heaters that heats hot water, and one's got soapy water, then a rinse, and you rinse your little utensils out all in that, and then you let it dry. They wanted to build a little bit better, so needed hot water.
I see.
I'm the hot water guy.
Oh, wow.
So I wound up going to Fuqua Island, and because I was fairly adapted, thinking on my feet, I looked at where it was on the map, looked at where we were, and seen that Saigon was between us and them. So I went to Saigon for a couple days.
Oh, okay.
When I finally got to Fuqua Island, the captain in charge was all like, "Where have you been?" I said, "Sir, military air, it is just so unpredictable. I can be anywhere."
Great.
And that's the way it was. I was on Fuqua, and from Fuqua they sent me to Nha Trang. And same thing. I picked my own way to travel, so I stopped some other places, and then from Nha Trang they moved us all from Nha Trang to a place in the Mekong Delta called Ben Tui, and then I spent my most time on Ben Tui, but I got to go back to Fuqua because they needed help there, and I got to travel, and because I wasn't 11 Bravo or 0300 infantry. I didn't run around the woods looking for trouble. The trouble knew where we were because we were making all the noise in the woods with the heavy machinery building something.
So our guys were protecting. probably, or not?
Well, they couldn't protect it. I was on a base, the base I was on in the Mekong Delta, we got mortared or ground probed at least 3 times a week.
What's ground probed?
Where they try to get into the base to blow things up or try to attack us. We had, and the reason they were so hot to get into our bases, they didn't like the airplanes we flew out of there, because we flew AC-47 gunships, spooky gunships, A-1E Sky Raiders, SPADs. So they wanted to blow them up. They didn't want them to be, so the Vietnamese are trying to, stop us. Just the normal,
So how did you guys protect yourselves?
We had a perimeter. We had people outside the perimeter looking around.
Checking.
We had tripwires. We had guns, and we didn't go out there looking for them. We waited for them to come looking for us.
I guess it had to be, the perimeter had to be watched all the time.
All the time. Oh, they had towers up in the air with nightlight scopes, where somebody would be scanning the area all night long, looking to see any movement.
Wow. How did you live there? Were there barracks? I mean, or...
Yeah, we originally lived in old French barracks outside the American wire. And then they decided that we should be inside the American wire instead of, being with the Vietnamese, even though we were our own little entity. So they moved us back in. And we worked, the interesting thing about Red Horse was every GI had a certain amount of Vietnamese that worked for them. Papas and, Papa sons, men and women, mama sons.
Oh, yeah.
And I built a surge treatment line that went around the whole base. I put in a chow hall. I put in at least 4 or 5 shower units. For shower units, we built a whole air-conditioned billets for the crews that flew the AC-130 gunships at night, because they'd leave at dusk and come back at dawn. So that's what we did. We built stuff. We built and defended.
Nice. So what did the Vietnamese do for you?
Everything. I was like a foreman, and they did everything else. They did I wish I'd taken tons of slides, and they disappeared. Like when we built the chow hall, and the main for the steam, for all the steam kettles and all that, was 6-inch pipe. Off a boiler, 6-inch pipe, and they didn't have this. All these people were little. They didn't have the strength to do it. This wrench, so a couple of them would hold the wrench, and 2 or 3 would run up the wrench to tighten the fittings up when to get them real tight. They were good people. I mean, there was a few that were trying to kill us.
I was going to say, how do you know? I mean, they all look the same. You don't know who's good and who's not.
You didn't. Well, usually, if there was an attack at night, some of my Papa sons would be a little tired. Some of their clothes would still be a little muddy. Like when we were building the sewage treatment.
So you mean that they were involved in the attack?
Oh, yeah. And when we were building the sewage treatment line, they'd say they've got to go to the bathroom, and you'd see them trying to pace off from one place to another, and you'd grab them, you just turn them around. And if you really thought they were bad news, you'd call the Vietnamese police, and they'd have them arrested. But that usually meant their untimely death.
Yeah.
And not a pleasant way.
How awful. It's hard to, how do you know who to trust?
You trusted no one.
Whoa.
Like more than once they asked me, come sit and eat with us, and I'm not going anywhere alone.
Oh, really?
No.
What would they have done?
I don't think they might have not done anything, but I was not going to take the chance.
Right.
There's no reason, for.
Did you learn this in basic training? I mean, how do you know?
No, you got
that?
Not that you really learned it in basic training, but you learned it from growing up in the Bronx.
Oh, I see.
Street smarts. Doesn't matter whether it's the jungle or the streets of the Bronx. It's the same thing.
Never trust anyone. I mean,
Never trust anyone.
back then, people even said the kids were questionable sometimes.
Kids would throw hand grenades.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were basically there in Vietnam, I understand there are no real front lines or anything.
No.
It was all one big,
Any place the
Any
bad
place.
guys had a rifle or a mortar shell or a rocket, they try to, lob it in.
did you have, you witnessed a lot of combat?
A lot of ground attacks on us. No, like I said, I didn't run around in the woods looking for trouble. I mean, we did convoy duty, we got shot at, but we were never ambushed. It was just random somebody, shooting at you. It's not like they, blew up something in front of us and tried to overtake us.
Uh-huh. Did you go into Saigon?
Yes, I went to Saigon a couple
Did you
times.
feel safe doing that? I mean,
Yeah, I along the way, I got myself a little 38. So I got one of those shoulder holsters.
Oh, not-
had it under my uniform. So
oh, not Air Force issue?
no,
Okay.
there was so many weapons running around.
Really?
Well, you could get just about anything.
But you probably felt safer with it.
Yeah, but it was.
But now, why
They
did you
didn't.
go?
They didn't normally just attack one guy. It wasn't really a terrorist. They were looking to stop the whole thing. They attacked. They held little pieces of property, like a mountain, and then we decided we wanted to take that mountain, so we'd go take it, and we'd get off it once we took it, and then they go back, and then a couple months later we decided to take it again, and then, I mean that went on all the time over
Really?
there. That's why, yeah. It was, we were gaining nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
It was just.
Why did you go into Saigon? Was it for recreation? or-
Yeah, just because I could. I mean,
What did you do there? I mean, what do you
Went to
do
a
there?
bar and
Okay.
had some drinks and bumped into a Vietnamese woman. I mean, I don't want to get too explicit.
That's fine. I get it. Kind of get the picture.
This is PG now.
Right. It has to be. Your granddaughter might see this one day. So witnessing destruction, you saw it.
Yeah,
You saw everything.
yeah.
What kind of friendships and camaraderie did you form while you were serving there?
I had a couple. I had one good friend. He was from California, Robert Bradbury, and we went on our R&R together. And we went on 7 days leave together because they ask anybody want to go on 7 days leave.
Where do you go for that?
R&R, we went to Hong Kong.
Oh,
And in 7 days leave, we went to Penang, Malaysia.
Malaysia.
And if I could go back to Penang, I would go back to Penang in a
Really?
heartbeat.
Why?
Hong Kong was a city. Penang was more. First, there was only one plane load of GIs there at a time, and the people just seemed friendlier.
Oh, yeah. How far was that from, you went on a military plane or?
Yeah, we flew. No, I think we flew civilian planes there too.
How far away was that?
Penang, well, Hong Kong is
A few hours?
probably 6-7 hours away, and probably Penang is about the same.
Oh, I see. Wow. 6-7 hour flight.
Yeah.
Huh. Now, how did you stay in touch with family and friends from home? Did you?
I never went to they had a Mars radio thing where you could call home.
Oh.
I never did that, because why would you want, you're in a place, and why are you gonna drive yourself nuts by calling home? And I didn't write enough, so my mother, after she had sent me, I wish I had saved it, postcards, but saying just check off I'm okay. I didn't even send them back, so somehow she got in touch with somebody, and it trickled down the chain where the chaplain had me in his office and had me sit there and write a letter to her.
Oh,
And he did that 3 weeks in a row, and then after that I wrote home.
oh, okay.
But what are you going to write? Dear Mom, we were attacked last night. You remember Billy I told you about? Yeah, he's probably not going to come home. And what are you going to write?
Right.
You're in a war.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, the more you thought about what was going on, I mean, the best thing to do is
Not.
try to wash your mind of it every day, because the more you thought about it, to me, the more stressful it got.
Of course.
I tried not to, I tried to, decompress every day.
And you didn't want to worry her either?
No, what am I going to tell her? Yeah, we were almost overrun again.
Yeah.
It's not good.
But it's comforting to her, it would have been probably
True.
to know you got her letter but by the time this went back and forth, the mail wasn't real speedy
Yeah,
probably. So
yeah, no.
either way. What other experiences did you have while you were on the bases there? With either working or with people you worked with?
Well,
Or
with working, I mean,
Or-
the Delta we did the most.
Why is that?
We were there. I was in that the longest, because this was 1967. Build-up was happening. We were building. We were building a permanent American installation. I mean, we put in a beautiful chow hall.
Chow hall.
We put in a beautiful hospital. The barracks were all nice, the hooches they called, but they were all nice. They all had shower units. This is going to be we were planning to be there for a while. We weren't living in tents anymore. The tents were gone. We were living nice and
Do you know what happened to all that stuff?
I don't know. I'd like to go back one day. In fact, this year, December will be 50 years.
Wow.
So if I can figure, if money gets right, maybe go back after the sailing season. In 2018, and go to all the places I was. Go to Fuqua, go to Bentui, and see. I mean, I looked at Fuqua like on YouTube, not YouTube, Googled it.
Yeah.
It's a tourist trap now.
Really?
I mean, it's a whole different. I mean, it had great beaches, so it'd be interesting to go back. But I mean, it was just the Delta. We did a lot. The Delta, we got attacked the most. Probably there was the place I was the closest with everybody because we got attacked so much.
Really?
So you really had to count on each other.
Yeah.
In fact, the one gentleman I always wanted to keep in touch with, and I kind of lost him, was the guy that was our commanding officer. He was at the time Captain Ralph Hodge, and when I joined the National Guard in '88, I had never thought about the Air Force Times. That's the Air Force newspaper.
Oh.
So I put an ad in the personal section. This is John Zimmermann. I'm looking for Captain Ralph Hodge. The last time we were together was in the Mekong Delta, Bentui. Contact me, and he called me the next day.
Oh, wow.
And we've been in touch back and forth. He sent me a letter, a 3-page letter to whom may concern about what I was.
Oh.
And that's one of the things I'm most proud of. He
Wait a
sent it
minute.
October 1991. But all, what I was in Vietnam, everything I
Really?
did. Yeah.
Wow.
This is the coolest thing.
That's
if you want,
nice.
I brought you a copy. You can read it at your leisure.
Love to. Wow. Why did he do that?
Because I was good at what I did, and he remembered me.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I was shocked when I got that in the mail.
So you didn't leave at the same. He didn't leave the service.
No, he stayed on. He retired as a full colonel in California. I left the Mekong Delta in, I think, the middle of November 1969. Went back to the main base, and we left the main base. Just went back to the States, and I was discharged December.
So did they give you the option to re-up?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't want to do that?
I would have re-enlisted if they would have sent me, the money they offered me was good, but if I wanted to go to an isolated remote site, because I didn't want to go back to Vietnam. I survived. I could have stayed in Vietnam working for either RMK or Pacific Architects and Engineers doing the same thing I was doing as a GI,
Oh,
making a ton more money, but they were getting killed just like we were, or wounded.
kidding, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, mortar shells are indiscriminate.
Yeah.
If you're working building a base and the guy out there with a sniper rifle says, I want to kill an American, and doesn't matter, there's an old sign, oh, civilian, don't kill me.
Right.
That's why, like, in Iraq and Afghanistan, they never talk about this, but the casualties of the civilian contractors, the guys that drive the trucks and all that, is very high.
Terrible. So you left, you were discharged in 68?
60, I left December 68, was discharged at McCord Air Force Base outside of Tacoma, Washington,
You got back from Vietnam via?
by civilian airplane again,
Civilian
yep.
airplane, okay. And then, what did you
Discharged.
do?
I hung around the Seattle, Tacoma area up until a couple days before Christmas. My mother kept saying, when are you coming home, when are you coming home? Because I liked it out there. And if it wouldn't have been for Mom constantly saying, come home, come home, come home.
But you didn't have a job yet?
No,
Uh,
I didn't. I had some money from, that I had saved, and some money from, that was left over from leave time that I had, so there was no rush to go to work.
Oh, I see. So then when you came back to New York, what did you do?
I hung around for a while. I didn't go right to work, and then my bad luck, I bumped into a woman that we thought we were in love,
Oh,
and that kept me in New York.
okay. And you got married and had
We got
family?
married. We got married. We didn't have kids. Neither one of us wanted kids.
Okay.
I didn't want kids because of Agent Orange,
Oh,
because there was so many miscarriages, birth defects, all stemming back from being sprayed with Agent Orange, that I had no desire.
you knew you were exposed, right?
Yes.
And anybody over there was exposed?
Just about everybody over there was exposed in one way or another. It was every, they sprayed it everywhere.
Wow.
But I later on in the 80s was part of a study, and everywhere I was, it was sprayed.
Wow.
And neither one of us wanted kids, so, and up until the time I wanted to, we drove across the country twice in the 70s. And I said, let's just sell everything, and let's take a road trip, and wherever we wind up, we wind up. You've got skills, office skills. I've got the heating and air conditioning and welding. We'll see. And she freaked.
Oh,
She didn't want to leave her parents. She loved her parents, but, so things happen. That's the way it goes. I wouldn't have, if we would have stayed married, I wouldn't have 3 lovely daughters now for my second wife. So
Oh, nice. Okay.
everything happens for a reason.
for a reason, that's right. How did you meet your second wife?
Through mutual friends.
Okay. Now, have any of your kids been in the military?
No,
Okay.
they're all girls.
They're all girls.
My youngest one thought about it for a while, but then she gave up the idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do they know about what you did?
I take little dribs and drabs.
Okay. How was it readjusting to civilian life, by the way?
It was interesting. I mean, Fourth of July was a little interesting. All the fireworks going off. That was a little flaky. I was already, I had learned when I was in Vietnam that the reason I was there was a lie. That whole domino thing was all a lie, and I got involved with the anti-war movement.
Once you were out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were over there, you already...
I already started thinking about it. Within
You
6
did.
months, I realized the Vietnamese didn't, they didn't care about being saved. We were not gonna, it's just like Iraq. I mean, we can't, We can't change a form of government. We can't make people love democracy. We divided that country in half. We should have never done that, like we should have never done in Korea. I mean, it all came back to haunt us. I mean, I read this after I really started studying Vietnam after, trying to figure out why. And I read probably one of the best books on Vietnam, on the why of Vietnam, and it's called Why Vietnam. I can't remember the whole title. It's Why Vietnam, America's Pariah, I'm almost sure. And the gentleman that wrote it was the OSS officer in charge of the deer teams that went into Vietnam during World War II.
World War II?
World War II, who had dealt with Ho Chi Minh and who had promised Ho Chi Minh basically that if the Viet Minh helped Allied flyers, the French would not get their colony back. Because Vietnam was part of French Indochina. Right. And Ho got a copy of, this guy supplied Ho with a copy of our Declaration of Independence, our Bill of Rights. Their Declaration of Independence and Bill of Rights is based on ours.
No kidding. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. If you ever want to read it, and the book is being published again, which is the most amazing thing. I bought this in 1980. You couldn't find it anywhere. And the other day, for some reason, I looked online. You can buy it again.
Wow.
If you want to read the why of Vietnam, and we liked when the war was over, we gave the French back their colony. They actually had to rearm the Japanese troops that surrendered to put down the riots from the Vietnamese.
Where were you when the war ended?
Where was I?
70s, right? 70s.
75? I don't know. Probably working somewhere. I was, they sort of pictured me, and my hair was a little long.
How were you received? When you got back, you felt more aligned with the anti-war movement.
Right.
How were you received by friends and family when you came back?
Family was glad to see me. Most friends were all glad to see. Everyone was glad to be. Glad I was home. Glad I survived.
Was there already
none of the little girls I was writing stayed. They all wrote me Dear John letters. But that's right. I was in Vietnam, so it didn't matter.
When you came back, it was still kind of early.
Yeah. I was never called a baby killer. I was never spat at.
No, okay.
I mean,
there wasn't that much anti-war feeling yet.
Well, there was anti-war, but it wasn't. They didn't.
It wasn't blatant.
It wasn't blatant, and it. I mean, I'm sure there was instances of it happening, but I never saw it. I didn't see it. I didn't see it in Washington State. I didn't see it in New York City. I didn't see it anywhere I was. So wherever it was, maybe it was one idiot or two idiots. It wasn't everybody.
Okay.
But it's like anything else. I can remember the first couple anti-war demonstrations. The construction workers attacked the anti-war kids in 1970 or something like that. So, there's a lot of.
It was starting up.
It was starting up, and the construction workers learned later on that when their little sons started coming home in body bags, that maybe the war was wrong, and they started joining the anti-war movement.
Are you a member of any veterans organizations now, or did you join any?
I'm a member of. I joined the Vietnam Veterans Against the War. I later on joined the Veterans for Peace, and I am a member of the American Legion.
Okay, nice.
And back in everybody talks about the kids. Back when I came home, both at the American Legion and the VFW post, the older World War II vets were very disrespectful. Oh, if we were fighting in that war, we won, you guys don't know how to fight,
Really?
and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not the only guy that says this.
Really?
They were very disrespectful. They thought we weren't doing our job.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's sad. But I don't think they feel that way anymore.
Well, most of them are all dead, and we're the old guys now,
Yeah.
and we would never let that happen to an Iraq or Afghanistan vet.
Right. There's a whole different way of
A whole
looking at
different
things.
mindset, because we know the way we were treated.
Yeah. How do you think your wartime experience has affected your life?
How it's affected my life? Well, I learned to trade. I do have, being sprayed with Agent Orange caused a few health issues. I've had cancer. I've had a heart issue. I suffer from a little post-traumatic stress disorder. It's made me anti-war.
Yeah.
I mean, I went back in 1989. I went in the National Guard. 1988.
Okay.
I went in the National Guard because I was looking for another retirement. They were looking for my particular military specialty. I called them. They said, if you join now, you could rejoin. And when Iraq started and all that, I didn't wear my uniform, but I protested that war. And when I was retiring in 2006, my troops, went to me because I was a senior master sergeant at the time. They said, "What are you going to do now to retire?" And I said, the same thing I did in 1968. I'm going to sew flowers on my jeans, grow my hair long, and protest in a moral war.
Did you?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I did. When I went back to see him, I put on this extra weight like I have now. I had grown a beard, my hair was way longer, and I looked a little like Jerry Garcia. So
Yeah.
they did a video saying, Jerry Garcia visits the 106th.
Wow. Well, how many years total then were you in? Because you joined the National Guard to add on to your...
21 years, 11 months.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Are you getting... I mean, is the military helping you out with whatever
Well,
medical or whatever?
Well, yeah, VA.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
I still, because I'm retired, I still have military TRICARE, so I don't pay anything for drugs.
Good.
In fact, I had never put in for a disability because I figured the guys that are disabled are the guys missing limbs or whatever. And then when I had cancer, and it's all from being sprayed with Agent Orange, I said, you know what?
They determined that for sure?
Oh yeah,
Good.
it's all. And I said, you know what, I'm going to apply. So the VA said I'm 50% disabled, but I qualified for Veterans Vocational Rehabilitation.
Oh.
And I needed a captain's license, a Coast Guard 50-ton master license. You civilians call it captains. I needed a captain's license for what I was trying to do.
Ah.
So the VA paid for the whole thing.
Great.
And I am now a U.S. Coast Guard 50-ton master with a sailing endorsement.
Good. Good for you.
So,
Nice.
so the VA, I've knock on wood again. You hear horror stories about VA. I've never had an issue. I mean, it's always.
I'm glad.
There's always been good. It's always been good to me. I mean.
Good. Well, you deserve everything. Really, thank you for doing everything. What are some life lessons you've learned from the military?
Life lessons. Be on time. Know what you're talking about. I mean, don't. And if you're going to do something, do it. And if you can't do it, be honest enough to say, it ain't going to happen this way. Honesty is the biggest thing. I mean, I had a captain in the National Guard, and I forget where we were, but I was walking towards him, and he was talking to another officer, and I heard him say, he says, "If you don't want the truth, don't ask Sergeant Zimmermann." Because I tell you, it's not going to help my career any, but I'll tell you the blatant truth. This is not, whatever you're planning is not happening. It's not working. It's never going to work. So you need to stop thinking that way.
It's good. Very good. How do you think your military service impacted your feelings about war? You kind of mentioned that.
Oh, no,
Or the military.
The military has its place until we can have every nation disarmed. You're going to have a military. But war should be the last thing we think about. I mean, and if it was me and I was in charge, we should vote. It should be voted on by all citizens. And the first people that get drafted or get put in the military are the people that voted yes for the war. Politicians all the way down the line, you vote yes, we want to go to war, your son goes first. First, number one, you're right there, you know. That's it. You're so for it, and I mean, because half these people that scream about wars are all chicken hawks. They've never been there. They've never seen it.
Yeah.
And you know, you need to see it, feel it, and smell it, and taste it to realize you don't want any part of it.
Yeah. I can't imagine being over there as long as you were. And, some water.
No, it's not. It's from 9/11.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's when you were in the National Guard, you went there?
Yeah, we were there for 16 days.
What did you do there?
First days we were doing patrol around the place. I drove through never forget this, I drove through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, taking 6 other people to Staten Island to pick up more military vehicles. And inside that tunnel, you needed your lights on. That's how thick the dust was.
Wow. Terrible. So you breathed all that in?
We breathed all that before we started getting masks and all that. And we did some, because we were a construction outfit, prime beef. The firemen needed some things built in this building they took over. So we built what they wanted for, they needed some way so people just couldn't walk in and start taking stuff. They needed some control points. So we put up walls and all that, so there was control points.
The prime beef was the unit in Nam, no?
Well, that was Red Horse.
Oh.
There was I was in Red Horse in Vietnam, but
Okay.
there was also prime beef. And all Air Force engineers are called prime beef.
Oh, I
now.
see. Okay.
There's prime beef and Red Horse. Prime beef is like the local unit, and the guys that travel are Red Horse.
I see. Now, you told us you were injured. Were there any other injuries you had when you served?
No. Little hearing loss, but
Okay. What message would you like to leave for future generations who might hear this interview?
But always question your government.
Good point.
Always question your government. Just don't question your government. Question the news organizations. I mean, don't just believe. Dig deep. I mean, dig deep, because there's so many people that have ulterior motives. And like Eisenhower said when he was leaving the presidency, beware of the military-industrial complex.
Well, back then, I mean, we were all so young. Who would have, and ingrained was you don't question.
Well, now, that's why I'm saying now,
Yeah.
future generation, question in a heartbeat. I mean, because I believe, like I said, I totally believed it. I mean, I went in the military before it started. As soon as it started, I tried to join the Army. They were, this had to be 67, beginning of 67. They came to the Air Force looking for people.
You were in since '64.
Yeah, but they came in beginning of 67, looking for people to transfer over to the Army to become helicopter pilots.
Oh.
And I said, I want to do it. And they said, nope,
Why?
too much training. They spent all that money, and it's 6 months of training. And they said, no, we spent way too much money on you to go anywhere.
Oh.
Which is just fine, because helicopter pilots were, they were being shot out of the
Yeah.
air like anything, so.
And this way you got employment afterwards
Yeah.
doing what you did, but they're more dangerous. But that's what you
Yeah.
originally wanted to do.
But I would, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's ironic.
it's, yeah, if I would have known to fill out my enlistment papers, and my, what do I want to be? If I would have put the first thing instead of mechanical field, if I would have put helicopter mechanic, I would have been a helicopter mechanic.
Wow. It's probably better
Yeah.
the way it turned out.
Oh, yeah, it just, I got to fly in all the helicopters I wanted in Vietnam.
Is there anything we haven't discussed or anything you'd like to add to this interview?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Thank you so much, John. You're terrific.
Well,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
your service and all you did and learned for us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for doing this. This is cool.
Thank you. Okay.
Beautiful.